Topping today's news, the former and current Foreign Affairs Minister trade comments over the recent fraudulent passports. Senator Griffin says the new foreign affairs bills will benefit increased trade. We learn more about our rights as consumers in the face of mounting complaints against local companies and police investigating an incident where 2 bus drivers exchanged gunshots on Tuesday morning. This is your JCN Evening News. I'm Jarino Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us. 2 weeks ago, Acting Chief Passport Officer Nicholas Simonet updated the public on the government's efforts to eliminate fraudulent Bahamian passports after a man was arrested in St. Vincent for attempting to travel with a fake Bahamian passport. Simonet noted that the problem could become an issue of national security and that they would step up their efforts to uncover such documents. Well, this week, 8 people, including a Bahamian, were arraigned in the magistrate's court on multiple fraud charges related to fake passports. On Tuesday, F&M Senator and former Minister of Foreign Affairs Darren Henfield expressed his concern.
Reports of foreigners being able to use fraudulent documents to procure Bahamian passports are, to say the least, disturbing. From all accounts thus far, it appears that the accused persons, 2 of whom are reportedly valid work permit holders, and the other a foreign teen, were able to obtain Bahamian passports using forged certificates of registration and forged letters from the Immigration Department that were accepted by the Passport Office. As the matter is before the courts and therefore sub judice, we reserve commentary that might be harmful to the case. However, we hope an audit is underway at the Passport Office and elsewhere to determine whether others may have slipped through the cracks and achieved the same outcome.
In addition to the Bahamian, those charged with having fraudulent passports were 2 Dominicans, 3 Haitians, and a Cuban national, along with a Guyanese national, who were all charged with fraud and conspiracy to use fake documents. Mr. Henfield offered recommendations on how the Passport Office can prevent such things happening.
The Passport Office, if it has not yet done so, must reinforce protocols to mitigate the procurement of this most sacred Bahamian document through fraud. An integrated e-system that screens passport applications against the backdrop of the Registrar General's Office, the Department of Immigration, the National Insurance Board, and the Ministry of Education and others will go a long way in reducing the possibility of such fraud. We encourage the government to prioritize digitizing and integrating these and other systems to assist in verifying information purported to be authentic.
PLP Chairman and Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell, responding to Mr. Henfield, said all of the safety and security protocols the F&M Senator suggested have already been put in place by the Davis administration, which is why those charged in court this week were caught. The Foreign Affairs Minister expressed his confidence in the work that the Passport Office is doing in collaboration with its regional and international partners to protect the authenticity of Bahamian documents. During debate on the Foreign Affairs Bill 2024 and the Department of Foreign Service Bill 2024, PLP Senator Barry Griffin, who is also the chairman of the Bahamas Trade Commission, the chief trade negotiator for the Bahamas, touted the benefits of the new laws in relation to Bahamas foreign trade. Mr. Barry, who said there was little trade in foreign affairs during the Minnis administration, he says the Bahamas does not have to play a passive role in the changing global trade markets. He said the government is taking steps to be more competitive.
2 years ago, we launched the first national trade policy the Bahamas has ever seen. For the first time, we had a guide that the Ministry of Economic Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, foreign investors, foreign countries can see what our priorities as a nation were. I quickly got to work, working closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to essentially build our trade infrastructure from the ground up. We engaged very quickly with countries who had a diplomatic presence in the country, namely Brazil, China, the United Kingdom, and the United States. We poured through years of data looking at trade between our nations, identifying strengths and weaknesses and areas of opportunity. Very quickly, we saw the alarming statistics of how centralized our trade was with one jurisdiction and how little trade we did with the rest of the world. We saw opportunities to take advantage of our great diplomatic relationships around the world to diversify our trade and put Bahamian merchants, businesses, and entrepreneurs in direct contact with producers and manufacturers around the world, cutting their business costs while simultaneously cutting costs for the end Bahamian consumer.
Griffin said the end goal is to be able to provide more affordable products for Bahamian consumers and provide avenues for increased exports of Bahamian products. He says for the first time, a government of the Bahamas is taking a very serious approach to foreign trade.
That has resulted in the launch of the National Trade Diversification Program, a program the Prime Minister talked about and touted in his national address in January. Madam President, for the first time, trade and foreign affairs are key central parts of the government's economic agenda. We will use our foreign affairs and diplomatic presence around the world to promote inward investment into the Bahamas and trade diversification. We want to use our relationships to build and secure better deals, bigger variety of products, and cost savings on products from around the world, Madam President. And all of this is only possible with the strongest of diplomatic relationships, which in turn is only possible with a modern foreign affairs and foreign service regime.
Senators passed the two bills during the evening session on Monday. The opposition did not support those bills. Senator and Executive Chairman of the Consumer Protection Commission, Randy Roll, spoke to a number of elderly residents on Tuesday about their consumer rights. Roll was a guest speaker at BTC's World Safer Internet Day hosted at Fusion Superplex. He outlined a number of protections currently in place for consumers, advising all residents that there are rules in place for your protection.
I'm not sure all of you are aware of the 8 fundamental consumer rights, but I want to be able to tell you that there are 8 fundamental consumer rights, and we just want persons to know what they are. So first, you have the right to satisfaction of basic needs. Second, you have the right to safety. Third is the right to be informed. Fourth is your right to choose. Fifth is your right to be heard. Sixth is your right to redress. Seventh is your right to consumer education. And eighth is your right to a healthy environment. All right, so those are the basis of what most of our work is done.
Senator Roll noted that the government has been made aware of the many unfair tactics used by some suppliers and reassures residents that Consumer Affairs is cracking down on those issues.
And so one of the things is, and we've had some conversations, and not being to put them on the spot, but you go to a store, you pick up a cake, it doesn't say when it was baked, when it's the best sold date by, and so you grab it, you take it home, you put it in the fridge or the cupboard, and 2 days it turns green. All right? These are some of the things that consumers have a problem with that happens on a daily basis. All right? And so what my commission has done is we've been on them to say, listen, either you put the date it was baked on the cake, or we're going to advise consumers to not buy it. All right? Another thing that we have found out, especially during the end of month and when old age pensioners receive their pension, a lot of stores, and not just calling one store, but a lot of stores tend to take the milk that's expired in a day or two, and they put them to the front.
Officials are encouraging residents to assist in these efforts by reporting any infractions to authorities at Consumer Affairs. On the second Wednesday in each month, opposition members in the House of Assembly would have a half hour to ask the government various questions, those government ministers. However, during today's session, government members moved to delay the question and answer session to next Wednesday, February 19th, and instead allow for first reading of bills during today's session. While not happy with this request, accusing cabinet ministers of a lack of readiness to answer the questions, the opposition agreed to the move. Outside the House of Assembly, though, before the session began, opposition leader Michael Pintard expressed his frustration with the government's failure to answer questions put to them on behalf of the Bahamian people.
The government has an obligation to make sure its ministers are in the House and that they answer the questions. Questions around BPL still linger, and we need to get clear answers. We are also concerned about the ongoing investigations into a number of government agencies and the possible involvement of some government official in criminal activities. We have questions about those investigations and where the government stands on a commission of inquiry, which we believe today is absolutely necessary. So there are a slew of questions that we put on the agenda. They're still on the agenda, and I hope they have the courage to address them.
Meanwhile, the opposition claims the government has not answered questions put on the agenda since October of 2023. And finally, members of the official opposition, led by party leader Michael Pintard, paid a courtesy call on the newly appointed Commissioner of Police, Shanta Knowles, and her executive team on Tuesday. The opposition says the meeting provided an opportunity for discussions on key national matters and the future of law enforcement. The opposition said it looks forward to continued dialogue with the Commissioner of Police on issues affecting the country. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back following these commercials.